It's taken me a year to get this presentable, but I had to teach myself how to use PowerPoint. I had never done that before. And I'm not real savvy with a computer, and then I had to get the PowerPoint projector, and anyway, so forth and so on. It's taken me this long. But this is, well, excuse me, let me go back. What you're looking at now is, this is the morning after we arrived in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is directly on the Mediterranean Sea, and this is the Mediterranean Sea. These photos don't do the beauty of that sea any justice at all. When I tell you that those waves are over my head, you can take that to the bank. That is me standing on the shore. I never got any closer to the water than from me to the front of the church sanctuary. And this is zoomed in on my camera, and those rocks would tower over my head, and the water is over those rocks. This is yet another shot, a different set of rocks even. Absolutely some of the most beautiful water I have ever seen. This is a common sight in Israel. You see a lot of barbed wire and fencing, much more so than you see here, but in odd places and for odd reasons. Some of the things that you're going to see even tonight predate the life of Jesus Christ, and I walked on them. There are mosaic tile floors that you're about to see that I walked on that were there before the time of Christ. If that was in this country, it'd be roped off and you would be daresome to touch it, much less walk on it. But then again, I don't know what this building here is, but evidently it's some top secret something, because they didn't want me going in there. This is the marina, the hotel that we stayed in the first night. We only were there one night. This is a resort in Tel Aviv. This would be the equivalent of the French Riviera on the other side of the Mediterranean. And this is the marina and the hotel. If you could turn around from here and look up, my hotel window overlooked this marina and that shoreline. It was a beautiful hotel. I took this picture from my father-in-law. He's a John Deere fan and he's a farmer. And it was just interesting to me. This is right in front of, between the hotel and the shoreline. And it was just interesting to me that they import John Deere tractors over there like good farmers should. After we left Tel Aviv that first morning of the first full day, we went, this is the entrance to a theater at Caesarea Maritima. You look at that word Maritima and it looks like maritime, but they say Maritima. It is Caesarea by the sea. It is named after Caesar Augustus, and this theater would predate the time of Christ. These are actual statues that would have been existent at the day of Christ and before. And you see the influence of the Greek and the Roman in the sculpting there. They are not roped off. You can touch them, manipulate them, handle them, do whatever you want to do. Over 2,000 years old. This is the theater. This theater is still in use today. And it was built a couple of years before Christ was born. Can you imagine that there is a 2,000-year-old theater they still hold productions in? Let me find my pointer button. This is our group. I'm not in there because I'm down here taking the picture. But this theater itself will seat in excess of 10,000 people. It is massive. The pictures do not do it justice at all. This is, and of course the exit sign here isn't original. But this is just one of the entrance ways. Notice they are beginning to use the archway here. And it was just a fascinating thing. This is an artist rendering of what some of this, like all of this right here, is now gone. Really, all that's left is the stage area and the seating area here. The backdrop of the stage, none of that is still existent. But there are fragments that they've uncovered. This is a little further down the Mediterranean coast. It is still Caesarea Maritima. This was, let me get my bearings right. Right here you see bleachers to the Hippodrome. The Hippodrome was a oval, or horseshoe rather, I believe it was, shaped arena right in here. And in this sand right here, where that man, whoever he is standing, are the bones and remnants of 2,500 Christians that were thrown to the lions. In this, well, let me go on, and now you'll be able to better see. That's Walt Deloach and Craig Deloach, both elders. Miss Ann Deloach at the Savannah Primitive Baptist Church. This is her son and grandson. They are standing in the midst of the pillars that supported Herod's palace. This is Herod the Great, and this was one of his residences at the time of the birth of Christ. This is a Roman well that has been excavated. There were 70, I believe it was, 60 or 70 lead scrolls at the bottom of this well. They provided a wealth of information whenever they were found. They were tremendously well preserved, and they provided a wealth of information. They're not biblical, but historical, as far as the lifestyles and the archaeology, the architecture and so forth of that day. And that's basically what I just told you.
That's in English, okay.
All right. This palace, that is Herod's palace, it is interesting that the last sentence of that says, in the early Islamic period, the whole area of the theater that we've already seen was apparently turned into a rebate, a fortress erected for the purpose of jihad, or holy war, surrounded by agricultural fields. Let me just take a break here for a moment with the pictures and explain something to you. Up until Israel was conquered by, was it Saladin, buddy? Am I thinking the right
Saladin,
name?
he was
Muslim?
he was an Iraqi, what we would now call an Iraqi.
Yeah.
He was Saddam Hussein was thought of as a contemporary Saladin.
Up until the time
yes.
that Israel was conquered by him, and I believe that was in the 600s.
It was in the very early Islamic era.
Yeah. Up until then, Israel was the green, beautiful country that it is today. Of course, that doesn't apply to the desert regions around the Dead Sea and between the Dead Sea and Jerusalem. But up at the Sea of Galilee and along the Mediterranean, the Golan Heights, all of that today is as beautifully green and lush as you can imagine. Whenever Israel was freed from Muslim control, 1948.
May 14th, 1948.
48. Every bit of what you're about to see as far as that green, lush countryside was barren, because the Muslims had ruined it. And it has taken them some 30, 40, 50 years to get it back to some semblance of what it used to be. But had the Muslims maintained control of that land for much longer, it probably would have been past the point of any return. Let's move on. Okay, when I told you earlier that I had stepped on floors that were around at the time of Christ, this is one of them. This is a mosaic tile floor. It is in the midst of Herod's palace. Those mosaic tiles, I don't know if you can see my fingers or not, but that tile, every one of those small tiles is less than an inch square, about 3/4 of an inch square, and they are each one, they look like a stone spike. And they are driven down into this compound, whatever that is, and that's how utterly well preserved they are. the picture doesn't do it justice, but you would be amazed at the color retention in these tiles. You can still see the reds, the blues, the yellows. It is utterly amazing how well preserved.
Where did the tiles come from?
I guess they made them, Sarah.
Domestically.
I suppose so. I really hadn't thought about that.
Could have been domestically.
But they had to have made them.
Domestically.
Isn't that amazing? I'll show you something else amazing in a minute that kind of blew my mind. This is the spot where Paul, whenever he was coming towards the end of his life, he's in bonds, and he goes before, is it Felix?
Felix or Pontius Festus?
Yeah, I think that was it. And he says he exercises his right as a Roman citizen to appeal to Caesar. Whenever he is on trial before the prefect, before the governor, this is where that happened. When he appealed to Caesar, he was put on a boat and was taken across the Mediterranean to Rome. That's just part of this. Would have been really the last we know precisely of Paul's whereabouts in Israel. Okay? At some point after that, he would have been given jurisprudence in Rome and executed. Another interesting thing about this area, this is again pillars in Herod's palace. Caesarea Maritima is the only place in all of Israel where any archaeological evidence has been found whatsoever that supports the scripture in having Pontius Pilate actually located at various points in Israel. There is one slab that has been unearthed at this site that specifically indicates